Then last we've got State versus Kenneth Richard Benton.
What do you do when a loved one needs help, and that help just does not exist?
He was just out of his mind and getting worse.
A mother forced to make a tough call.
So you felt an arrest was your only option?
The only option to get help here is and have someone be in a safe spot to save your family and them is to be in jail.
If untreated, his mental health condition would continue to deteriorate.
So many people are in the same position.
And to get them out of jail, once you find a resource, is almost impossible.
Here's the story.
I'm Pat Doris. Welcome to The Story. That's a heavy way to start, and we'll get to that story in a moment. We have several other fantastic stories in store for you today, from a fascinating story out of Southern Oregon on an appraisal gone wrong and what you can do if it happens to you, to your reaction to workers who live in places like Alabama but work full-time for the state of Oregon. We'll get to those as well. But first, let's turn our focus to the mental health crisis in our state that has some people sitting in jail waiting for a spot at the mental health hospital. It is frustrating and heartbreaking, and it is our top story. Throughout our Uncommitted series, we've exposed troubling gaps in Oregon's mental health system. Our series has shown how people in our legal system who need mental health treatment often cannot get it. Tonight, investigative reporter Evan Watson follows up on his reporting by looking at what happens when someone in jail needs mental health treatment, but there's just nothing available. Evan?
Pat, our previous reporting showed how those high bars, those high standards in Oregon make it difficult to force someone to get mental health treatment when they won't go voluntarily. Tonight, a story of a mother who ended up calling police on her own son in a desperate attempt to finally get him help. But she found even now that her son is in jail, the system continues to fail him.
Then last we've got State versus Kenneth Richard Benton.
For the fourth straight week, Kenny Benton sits down in this chair. It's his weekly fitness to proceed hearing, where a Clatsop County judge decides if Benton is still too mentally ill for his criminal trial. This time, a doctor shares his assessment of Benton from jail.
Mr. Benton is unable to aid and assist and does need restorative services. If untreated, his mental health condition would continue to deteriorate.
As the doctor shares a diagnosis of schizophrenia, anxiety, and mental disorders, Kenny Benton interrupts.
I know that I'm not a schizophrenic in any way, shape, or form. It needs to be reevaluated if that's the case. It doesn't matter if
Mr. Benton.
It's a fully virtual hearing. At the top of the screen is Kristen Benton, Kenny's mom, the newly appointed guardian for her adult son, and his biggest advocate for a release to a secure facility for mental health treatment. She's spent each day of the past 2 months trying to find solutions for her son. Last year, she watched as his mental health fell apart at her home in Astoria. She says her son was on anxiety medication, but his doctor's office closed, and he couldn't get his prescription refilled. Then she says he spiraled into psychosis from there.
He started eating raw meat. He was urinating out the window in his room, which was totally not him, burning things. He was just out of his mind and getting worse.
Kristen Benton describes her son as soft-hearted, creative, funny, and intelligent. 3 times, she called county behavioral health teams to come out and evaluate Kenny's mental health crises. But Kenny turned down treatment, and mental health workers said they couldn't do anything. That's what made it so tough when Kristen Benton found her son throwing a kitchen knife in the air.
I called the police because I thought this knife is going to go right through him. I could hear it, go shoo, shoo, shoo in the air.
So you felt an arrest was your only option?
The only option to get help here is and have someone be in a safe spot to save your family and them is to be in jail. And to get them out of jail, once you find a resource, is almost impossible.
Impossible because everyone, from judges to lawyers to doctors to families, seems to know there's nowhere to send someone like Kenny for treatment, even when they're in custody. Nan Waller is a Multnomah County Circuit Court judge who handles the mental health docket. She says incompetency cases are increasing each year, upwards of 5,000 people a year in Oregon now, and judges lack options for people who can't aid and assist with their own trials.
I don't think there's any disagreement across the board of any of the parties involved that we don't have adequate numbers of placements in our communities to prevent as many people as we would like to prevent going to the state hospital.
The Oregon State Hospital is the state's psychiatric treatment facility for people with severe mental illness, but it's full. Out of 699 beds in Salem and Junction City, 97% are occupied. In any given month, more than 100 people like Kenny Benton are waiting for a spot, often while their mental health deteriorates in jail. The state of Oregon is also out of compliance with the MINC order, a federal ruling requiring OSH to admit patients under aid and assist orders within 7 days. Wait times currently average close to 40 days. So each week, a circuit court judge writes that Benton is waiting for transport to the Oregon State Hospital. The only thing that changes are updates on the efforts of Kenny's mom. She paid for the doctor to evaluate her son, and she spent weeks trying to get Kenny to Unity Center for Behavioral Health in Portland for treatment.
These court documents mention that Kenny's mom, guardian, is working on a solution. What does it say to you?
I'm the one working on a solution.
Right, so what does it say to you that this system hinges on your efforts?
I think it's broken. I think it's, there's not enough facilities. There's not enough residential programs. There's not enough support.
Back in court, Kenny says he doesn't want to be transported to Unity and asks to be released.
I have a daughter who just started speaking recently. She had delayed speech issues, and I missed it.
A 3-year-old girl named Cade, who's now living at her grandma's house. This is Kristen's favorite video of Kenny holding his daughter when Cade was just a baby.
She's just starting to talk. She said, "Daddy's sick," and she looked out the window and she started crying. She doesn't know where he is. She doesn't know what's happened to him.
It's tough because Kristen Benton knows she's the one who called police.
It was just, I was alone doing it. I'm still a little bit alone here doing it with the court system.
It was a kitchen knife. It wasn't
Mr. Benton, please, we're not trying to talk about the facts.
Mom, please help me. Please help me, Mom. They're trying to f me over here. Bad.
The judge asks Kenny Benton if he would be willing to go to Unity for treatment.
Do you understand the 2 avenues that this case can go down at the moment? It's either the state hospital or a stay at Unity and taking medications voluntarily.
Kenny doesn't agree.
I'm going to ask you very calmly, can you reconsider this based on what you know about me, truly? Can you can you just see that I'm not a crazy person, I'm not a danger to myself or anybody else? Can you consider that and we can reconvene?
I want you to think very carefully about the question that I'm going to ask you next week, but I will see you back next Monday at 10:30. And we will finish this discussion then. So that is all for now.
No, wait. Okay, wait.
Nope, that's all for now, Mr. Benton.
Evan joins me now. I know you've been following this super close. Any update on Kenny's case today?
Yes, well, as of last Monday, the judge had ordered Kenny to go to Unity for treatment. But then in the last week, Unity said they couldn't guarantee his admission, his spot there. So the judge and the jail won't send him to Unity. Within that week time frame as well, his time to go to the Oregon State Hospital came up. And that was put on hold or bypassed because these Unity plans are in place. So now, as of today, they're trying to figure out if they can go back to the state hospital plan or see what's happening at a hearing this morning. I talked to the mom earlier, his mom, Kristen Benton, earlier today.
This, I'm sure, has just got the mom just tied up in knots. It would make any of us so frustrated because it's like the bureaucrats can't get the whole thing figured out. I mean, come on.
Mm-hmm. And it's representative of, he's just one case of this, right? Yeah. But there are dozens, if not more than hundreds each month of people going through aid and assist cases like this, and the capacity isn't there for treatment, for mental health treatment. And it's something that is called on many, many times. We need more like that. But if aid and assist, which is the state's priority right now for treatment to get people into the Oregon State Hospital, if that's not even getting the people in that need be, think about civil commitment like we've covered, those other types of cases that are even lower down that pecking order. There's just not the options out there.
It's a huge backlog, which is why we see some of those folks sadly out on our streets, right?
Yeah. Exactly, Pat.
Thanks for keeping a light on this. Appreciate it. This was the latest installment in our series Uncommitted, where Evan explores the way that Oregon's mental health care system is failing the people who need it to help them. You can watch our other stories right now on KGW Plus or on our KGW YouTube channel. And we know the Benton family isn't the only one going through this. If you'd like to share your story, we're here to listen. Send us an email You can send it to thestory@kgw.com or leave us a voicemail, 503-226-5090. We want to be part of what we can do to be part of the solution.
Coming up on The Story, a family in Southern Oregon wanted to refinance their home, but they weren't expecting what happened when the appraiser showed up.
And then at some point, he shifted and started sharing that he disapproves of same-sex relationships.
The ongoing problem of discrimination in home appraisals and how homeowners can push back when The Story returns.
Let's talk about home appraisals for a moment. Those happen when you go to buy or sell a home. The appraiser is someone who comes out, takes a look at your property, compares it to similar properties that have sold nearby, and then comes up for a number for what your place is worth. Well, that number is super important because it affects how much you can charge if you're trying to sell, or what the bank will loan you to buy the place or to make upgrades. Also, how much money you can take out if you're just refinancing. So, what happens when things go sideways and you suspect it's happened because of the color of your skin or the makeup of your family? Well, that's discrimination. A family in Southern Oregon believes that exact thing happened to them, even though the state did not make that finding. Here's reporter Larry Miller.
Mike Kaiser is proud of his family.
This is a picture of myself and my spouse.
A loving husband of 5 years, a daughter in college studying law. So framing reminders of the people he loves and those that love him back is his way of making a house a home. But Kaiser says he never thought the family photos he cherished so much could hurt him. It all began in 2021. He and his husband decided to refinance their 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom home in Southern Oregon. The couple found a lender and a home appraisal was ordered. It's a standard process.
I knew this appraisal was important because we wanted to use this money to help our daughter with college.
Kaiser says when he met the appraiser at the front door, it was anything but routine.
He just seemed like a pleasant older gentleman. Once he went upstairs, which is the first room he entered, he was just sharing that he was new to the area, he had relocated, and so we were having common casual conversation. And then at some point he shifted and started sharing that he disapproves of same-sex relationships. When it happened, it kind of stunned me. So I quickly went downstairs to literally hide every image of us as a couple. We have a large print from our wedding on the wall in the entry. He may have seen that and I wasn't sure, so I removed it from the wall.
Other keepsakes like photo albums were also tucked away. Anything that suggested two men lived in the house together as a family.
I had this feeling that he was discriminatory towards us and that anything I said was probably going to not be in our favor.
Once the appraisal was done, Kaiser called his lender to express his concerns. They told him to wait for the appraisal to be returned, and when it was, Kaiser said it confirmed his fears.
And what was your reaction when his appraisal came back?
I wasn't surprised.
But the lender was surprised. Based on the condition of the house and recent sales in the neighborhood, the lender expected the home to appraise at around $850,000. But the report completed by home appraiser Stephen Mark Schellemer valued the house at $625,000. 2 weeks later, the couple had another appraisal done with a different appraiser. That report confirmed their suspicions, valuing the house at $840,000, a $215,000 jump.
This is my home, and I don't think he should bring his personal views.
In this complaint filed with Oregon's appraisal board, it alleges Stephen Schellemer's appraisal was tainted. The investigation found Schellemer failed to comply with several administrative rules, like providing all necessary data to justify his value assessment and using appropriate valuation techniques to assign a value to the house, but nothing that ties to the allegation he discriminated against Kaiser and his family. The home appraiser was ordered to complete a series of education courses that dealt with documentation, record keeping, ethics, and competency. Schellemer denied the allegation and in a response to investigators called it entirely inaccurate. He reiterated his position to us in an email response, writing, "I deny all allegations lodged against me. I have no further comment." But for Kaiser, the matter is far from over. He's still processing an experience he calls traumatizing.
When you create a safe place in your own home and somebody steps in and does something that can financially deeply impact you, it triggers a lot of those old feelings.
Larry Miller, the reporter there, is morning anchor at one of our Tegna stations in Washington, D.C. He's done a number of reports on appraisal issues and got his start in the news business in Southern Oregon. He still has connections there, and that's how he found this story that we just watched. I had a chance to talk with him and get tips for anyone wondering if their appraisal is correct.
Probably the most important thing that families need to know is really the process by which these things work. I mean, the reason why this family was able to get some sort of justice was simply because they decided to move forward, tell their lender what was going on, and that lender moved forward and filed a complaint. And so even when we're going through the process of home buying, even if we're going through the process of refinancing, that we have to consider these steps, that if there is something about a home appraisal that does not make sense, every homeowner has a responsibility to report those claims to the appropriate bodies and allow them to conduct an investigation. And also, too, if they don't feel comfortable with the sort of bank that they're working with, to feel comfortable going with another bank that's going to give them and help them get an appraisal that is fair and representative of the market conditions in real time.
Okay, great. And the appropriate body, would that mostly be your lender, telling your lender, hey, we got, under appraised by 50, 75,000?
Absolutely. I would certainly have that conversation with the lender itself, but I would also have that conversation with the governing body. The state of Oregon, just like every state, has a statewide appraisal board that takes these sort of complaints seriously. They are very meticulous in their investigations. And because you're dealing with people that are familiar with, if not appraisers themselves, they know exactly what to look for as they're going through this process. Oregon's appraisal board is actually very good. In my conversations with them, they were very responsive and provided all of the data that we needed to conduct our investigation. So certainly, if homeowners don't feel comfortable with the sort of appraisal that they received, that it just doesn't make sense given the condition of their home and the condition of the market at the time, that they should move forward with a complaint. And hopefully find some sort of remedy to the situation as well.
All right, thanks for the tips, Larry. When we come back, you all had a lot to say about people who work for the state of Oregon but do not live anywhere near the state of Oregon. The state is paying thousands of dollars to fly some back for meetings.
I do not like my tax money going for their travel. If they're going to live in Texas, then they need to pay their own way back to the office for a meeting.
We'll take a look at your comments still ahead. Last week, we told you about folks who work for the state of Oregon but live outside the state, like way outside. Places like Texas and Arizona and Alabama and Florida. And there's a lot more. The State Department of Administrative Services is comfortable with that. They say it allows Oregon to hire and hang on to the best employees and tap into a diverse candidate pool. There are about 7,600 full-time remote workers who live in Oregon, and then another 494 who live outside the state. It's not a big number compared to the state's workforce of 40,000, but it's not nothing. And what really got some of you fired up is the fact that some agencies are spending your tax money to bring those remote workers back to the state for trainings occasionally. The Department of Human Services, for example, has 157 workers out of state and spent $4,000 to do that over the first 9 months of 2022. Again, I know, not a huge amount of money, but it does make me wonder what other agencies are spending. I'm trying to find that out now. And it makes me wonder what else is happening in state government with your tax money. In the meantime, some of you are fired up that this is happening at all. Christina wrote in, they work for us in Oregon. Be flexible on hours, but if you choose to live out of state after a certain date, you get yourself here on your own dime, period, or go to work for someone else. Jeff agreed, writing, the state should not pay for travel to Oregon when required for their job, as they chose where they live. We also received several voicemails from you, nearly all of them not happy with tax money paying to bring those out-of-state workers back to Oregon.
I do not like my tax money going for their travel. If they're going to live in Texas, then they need to pay their own way back to the office for a meeting.
They're not contributing to the Oregon economy by paying property tax and buying groceries at the grocery store. They should, if they're working for the state of Oregon, they should live in the state of Oregon.
Now, not everyone is against the move to go remote, especially for workers who are remote but still live and work in Oregon. One person who asked me not to read their email comment word for word on the air raised the issue that it might be cheaper for the state to have employees working from home because, well, office space is expensive. Okay, and we're checking with the state to see if they have closed any offices or ended any leases because people are working remotely. We'll let you know what they tell us about that. Another argument was consider how much gas is being saved by people who don't have to commute. Okay, maybe. And we also got a voicemail from Karen saying that for some jobs, being remote makes total sense.
The Department of Human Services has put together many virtual eligibility centers that process programs for our needy Oregonians, and there is no office that they go to, ever. It's all virtual. So they can really live anywhere. Please consider that.
Thank you, Karen. We are considering that. Overall, your reaction, though, pretty negative. You do not like the idea of any tax money being spent to bring workers back from other states to Oregon for meetings. Many agreed with Martha here.
Times are changing, and we cannot afford it. My tax bill has gone up every year, as everybody else's has. And I think if they work here, if they work for the state, they should at least live in the state. They're not paying any state taxes or anything like that.
Thank you, Martha. We were expecting a bill, by the way, to be entered into the Oregon legislature today that would forbid agencies from spending that tax money to bring back their remote workers. But I'm told it's been delayed and it will likely be introduced on Wednesday. We'll bring you an update when that happens. In the meantime, keep sending your questions and comments to thestory@kgw.com. We're going to wrap things up right after this. And that's the end of our show. Thanks so much for watching. And remember, the story, our story, well, that never ends. I'll see you tomorrow.